What is up, guys? I am here, and this is the iPhone Air. It has been the most talked about, leaked, and hyped phone of the entire year, and for good reason. It is arguably the most stunning piece of hardware Apple has released in a decade. But after using it for 2 weeks as my daily driver, I realized that this phone is exactly what I called it in my initial impressions: the beautiful compromise. It's the most important phone Apple released this year, but it definitely isn't its best. It feels like a dress rehearsal for Apple's future, but that stunning design comes at a very real cost involving power, heat, and performance. Let's start with the good, because visually, this thing is ridiculous. We are looking at a thickness of just 5.6 millimeters, and it weighs just 165 grams. For context, that is thinner than the freaking iPod Touch, which is just wild to hold in 2025. It's built with a grade 5 titanium frame and uses the new ceramic Shield 2 glass. It is, without a doubt, Apple's boldest design move since the iPhone X. Now, usually when a phone gets this thin, we start getting flashbacks to Bendgate. But surprisingly, durability is actually one of this phone's unexpected strengths. That titanium frame is incredibly rigid. It withstands more force than a human can physically apply and snaps right back to flat. Plus, the new ceramic shield offers enhanced scratch resistance, and you're still getting full IP68 water resistance up to 6 meters. As Mark Spoonhour from Tom's Guide put it, it is particularly impressive how durable this handset feels given the dimensions. But, as I always say, beauty is pain. You cannot delete half the volume of a phone without losing something. And on the iPhone Air, that pain hits you immediately in the sensory experience. To save space, Apple removed the bottom speaker entirely, so all audio comes from the single earpiece speaker. It sounds a bit tinny, lacks bass, and creates this unbalanced, mono-like experience if you're watching video in landscape. And then there's the camera. A single 48-megapixel wide-angle lens. There is no ultra-wide and no telephoto module. While it takes photos with accurate exposure and nice color, the digital zoom quality really starts to drop off past 5x. DxOMark gave it a score of 141, ranking it 41st globally. It's a good camera, but it is not a great system. Then we get to the internals, where we see the price of power in such a thin chassis. Inside, we have the A19 Pro chip, but it's a compromised version with 1 GPU core disabled, 5 cores versus the 6 you get in the Pro models. This results in a 20% lower peak graphics score. The issue here is heat. Titanium is about 20 times worse than aluminum in terms of thermals. During sustained activity, the back of the phone heats up a lot in the hand. To manage this, Apple actually slowed down the charging speeds to avoid overheating. You're capped at 20-watt wireless charging compared to 25 watts on the Pro, and wired charging is slower too. But the biggest casualty here is the lifeline, the battery. This is the weakest link. The cell capacity is only 3149 mAh, which is comparable in size to the old iPhone 11 battery. In my real-world usage, I'm hitting 15% battery by the end of a typical day, and I'm barely scraping 4 hours of screen-on time. For a phone at this price point, having a battery that is described as pretty weak is a tough sell. So, why did Apple build this? It comes down to an industry-wide war between power and physics. Processor power is exploding, but battery capacity is stagnating. With the coming AI tsunami, Gen AI-capable smartphones are expected to grow to 45% of shipments by 2027. But these features are power-hungry. Running an on-device LLM costs massive amounts of energy. As researchers note, Gen AI threatens all-day battery life for everyone, and the Air is struggling to keep up. However, there is another theory that I think tells the real story. The iPhone Air is a dress rehearsal for the iPhone Fold. This phone is likely a public test of the engineering required to build an ultra-thin panel, which is a necessary component for a non-bulky foldable. If you look at the numbers, the Air is 5.6 millimeters thick, while a Samsung Z Fold 7 is about 4.2 millimeters unfolded. Apple is using the Air to master this level of thinness to compete. It's the first step in a strategic design makeover, paving the road to a foldable iPhone, possibly coming next year. We're even seeing patents for what comes next to solve the thermal issues, like a liquid heat exchanger. This tech would use a magnetic piston to actively pump cooling liquid through microchannels, replacing the vapor chambers we use today. This is the kind of innovation needed for future processors and cinema-grade sensors in thin devices. But for now, though, the iPhone Air plays a strategic role in an ingeniously segmented lineup. It exists for the design lovers who prioritize aesthetics above all else. It gives Apple's designers room to make the iPhone 17 Pro just a little bit thicker to house the best battery and cooling for performance users. The iPhone Air is the most important phone of 2025, not because it's the best, but because its compromises are a transparent glimpse into the challenges and ambitions that will define the next era of technology.